Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
Hi, I'm Jessica Faust.
We are literary agents that have taken our popular blog to YouTube to discuss all things publishing. And today, there's been a lot of talk lately on Twitter about the dreaded form rejection. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what they are, why we use them, and maybe what you can even glean from them on your own querying journey. So if you don't know, a form rejection is when an agent sets up a basic pass, right? It's basically saying this is a pass letter, here's why, blah, blah, blah. And then when we're using Query Manager or emails, we just respond to every query that we're passing on with that same letter.
Yeah.
So nothing is personalized, probably apart from your name and maybe the title of your book, because Query Manager does do that. Yep. It's just everybody is getting the same rejection letter.
Or some version of the same rejection.
Some version of it, yeah. Mm-hmm. So like I said, there's been a lot of talk about it on Twitter and a lot of bemoaning of the form rejections, and I get it.
Can I just clarify, because I've been avoiding Twitter. Is this on mostly queries or submissions, or where's the moaning coming in?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay, fair enough.
So again, I get it. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about why we use them, and yeah, let's stop talking, James. That's it. So, okay, I guess the most obvious reason then, which you probably all deduced, is ease and speed.
Yeah.
I
mean, we are getting around 500, 300 queries each a month, and it's really important at BookEnds that we respond to everything. It's really important to us. And in order to guarantee we can do that, we need to streamline the process to protect our own time.
Yeah. Keep in mind, I can't speak for every agent, but at least I can speak for what I think all of us at BookEnds. We're getting upwards over 500 queries a month, most likely. Mm-hmm. And not to pat us on the back, but especially us, right? Because we are probably the two most public-facing agents.
Here we are.
Yeah, for some reason you come back to listen to us talk every week, but for that reason we get more queries. It is impossible, I'm comfortable saying impossible, to respond to all of those with some level of a personalized email. It would be our entire job.
No, and the truth is, exactly, to have to type something. I mean, even back in the snail mail day when I didn't get nearly as many queries and nearly as many submissions, I still had a form. And everybody who I knew and worked with had a form. And if you talk to authors who were querying back then, they have piles of letters that they can carry around, rejection letters that are all ultimately the same version, or a version of the same thing.
Did you print the name on it? I'm just curious.
When I first started agenting, I would. I would have to type it in, and then print it. I wouldn't do the address, I would just do the name. And I think I might have even added the title, but then I quickly was just overwhelmed. And I realized how much of my time I was spending typing in names and titles. And then I was actually signing them all. I was personally signing everyone. Then I'd have to fold it. And then I'd have to put it in the envelope. And then I'd have to seal the envelope. And then I'd have to get it to the mailbox.
Every query is 5-10 minutes.
Well,
after you've read it.
Yeah, and that was a ton of time that was not spent earning me any income. That was not going to grow this business.
The only good thing was you had the best printer ever when you were doing that.
I did, Big Joe.
Yeah, we miss Big Joe. We had the best printer in the BookEnds office, and sadly he retired a few years before the pandemic. And I think about
he was like a 10-year-old beast.
Yeah, more, I think. I think about him every day.
He went down fighting.
Let me talk about this printer. I missed that print. The scanning on that printer was well beyond its years, wasn't it?
It was beautiful. The whole thing was beautiful.
Gosh. Anyway, so that's even with the best printer ever. It took that long to do.
It was such a hassle. And for what? So then I just started keeping a stack of pre-printed rejections but I still had to fold them and put them in the envelope and stuff. But yeah, in the beginning, I really did try. And then it was not sustainable.
No, that would paralyze me. I'm sorry. I'm just talking random things today. But like having to fold them perfectly, it would paralyze me. I'd be there for days. Anyway.
It was a lot. So, but the other truth of it is, I really usually don't have much to say. No. I mean, what my form says is really the reason I reject most queries. And that is, I'm just not that interested to read more.
Yeah, and we talked about this recently too, where we said it's never just one thing, right? It's never just like your character is off. But because there's reasons that your character would be off. Maybe it's the dialogue, maybe it's the backstory, maybe there's not enough context, the pacing is off, maybe it's the beginning, maybe it's the middle. Like there's never just one, like, this is one thing that I think you can fix. It's always the way everything is meshing and melding and working together. So it would be unfair of us too to give you a piece of feedback that's half-baked because we have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, if it was just the character or just the ending, we would offer representation because we would work with you to fix it.
You're famous for that.
I am famous for taking on a book that needs a new ending.
Yeah, famous.
Every client who would ever watch this video right now is going,
yep. Damn her.
Damn her and her obsession with new endings. Yeah, it's never one thing. But I often also hear from authors who say, well, can you just tell me when you quit reading? But that doesn't mean that that section I read was done.
Right.
Like if it failed after that, and you just go fix the part where I quit reading and beyond, there was something about that first part that didn't keep me interested enough to read beyond where I stopped. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I also want to like sort of challenge everybody to think, now you query 50 people for a book. Imagine you got 50 of those half-baked responses that didn't give any context, that maybe didn't read as fully as you hoped they did, telling you what's wrong with your book.
Oh.
You're gonna at some point like, I need to revise because this person didn't like the character, this person didn't like the pacing, the plot, this point, that point. You're gonna have a Franken book by the end of your querying journey, and you will have not grown from the experience. Your book will not have grown from the experience. You would have spent so much time revising this book to try and find an agent from people who have already passed that you would not have been working on your next book. It's not, I don't think it's anything beneficial for the author to give feedback besides like, I really read it and loved it and I have this constructive thought and let me share it with you, come back to me. Like besides something like that where I have a fuller picture of the book, I don't give extreme feedback like that because I think it's going to just mislead you.
Well, listen, I've run up against, I used to, well, I still do. I have about 6 different form letters. And I used to switch back and forth with them between them on a pretty regular basis if I could. I actually stopped doing that this year because, and this was on queries, but also on submissions, but I stopped doing that this year because I still found or felt that they were creating more problems for authors. So I might say the word count was off and it would say, you know, I'm passing on this, I'm not interested. Also, just so you know, your word count seems really off, or something like that. Or sometimes I would say, I don't represent this. I don't represent historical fiction, for example. But the truth is, if you read my profile, you'd know I didn't represent historical fiction. Historical fiction's not even in my list of genres. So I shouldn't have to tell you that for that one. But the second thing is then I started getting a lot of resubmissions of people who took the word count, as an example, so much to heart that they sort of ignored the fact that there was something else about the book that didn't make me want to keep reading no matter what the word count was.
Right.
And now I feel like, while I think, you know, revisions is good, you spent a huge chunk of time just trying to trim 20,000 words from a book that was still just getting rejection after rejection when you probably should have been working on your next book.
That you didn't read.
I didn't read.
So you have no idea if the 100,000 words were better than the 80,000 words would be.
Yeah, and I have requested plenty of books that were below word count or that were above word count to see where they might lead.
Yeah.
So that's sort of an example of why I don't want to give personal love. But yeah, to the point of the query letter, the truth is, I use the analogy of, imagine that you're sitting at home and a dump truck comes and dumps 500 books on your front step. And you have to decide which ones you want to read, right? Well, you don't have time to read every book. You don't even want to read every book because you are not a fan of dogs, and any book that has a dog on the cover, you're kind of immediately like, not for me, not for me. So you're going to sort through and you're going to read the back cover copy and you're going to decide which ones you're going to keep. Because what you also realize is next month, another dump truck is coming with another 500 books. So you don't have 10 years to read these, because in 10 years, I can't even do the math. You're going to have tens of thousands of books if you don't sort through them and choose. And that's how agents decide on their query inbox. And also, as a reader, think about when you go to the bookstore. If you grab 3 books and you're reading the cover copy, and let's say the bookseller comes over and says, so can you tell me why you put those 2 away, but you kept this one? Your answer is probably going to be, those 2 didn't sound that interesting to me.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. That's it. That's it. That's where we're going to leave it too, folks.
That's it.
Drop the mic. Well, we hope it was helpful. If you've been following along with that Twitter discourse about form rejections, I hope this offers at least some insight from how and why we approach it this way. Again, not every agent thinks like us or does things like us, so they may disagree. This is just our take. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you back here next week.
Bye.